Greetings, Commanders, and welcome to episode 85 of Lave Radio, the show that talks about the universe of Elite and the fantastic community that surrounds it. I'm your host, Colin Phoenix Defier Ford, and joining me in the orange sidewinder for this episode is, well, head of health and safety, the man whose pauses make us breathless with anticipation, Mr. Ben Moss Woodward.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Twilight Hour. How are you, Colin?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Also joining us tonight, he's the man who puts the big and round in the sound. It's Commander Chris Jarvis.
Hello, I was just trying not to pancake into the sun there.
Oh, well, you don't want to do a fozzer just so quickly, do you? Now?
No, quite.
And also keeping quiet in the background, which is a first, we have Grant Psycho Cow Woolcott.
Good evening. Yes. Oh, it's not Halloween anymore, is it?
No, I'm afraid to say Halloween has passed. You can no longer play with your ghoulies. Yes. Right. On that wonderful note, if you wish, you can join us. We're not actually hanging out live in Lave Station tonight. I think everybody is dispersed that far across the galaxy. It would have been impossible for us all to make it back in time. However, we are available in IRC, on the IRC chat channel, #Lave Radio on QuakeNet, and you can access that through the Lave Radio page. Or you can tweet us on at Lave Radio with questions, and we'll try and answer them towards the show. So, folks, we'll start with Chris. What have you been up to this week?
I was going to say I will be outside Lave Station if I can just stop doing a loop of shame. And actually, the problem is I saw the station coming up and I moved the joystick and nothing happened. And I realised it's because I'd clicked on the chat window. So I wasn't actually focused on the game at all.
So you've almost gone into a sun once, and now you're doing a loop of shame.
Basically, yeah, I'm discovering how hard it is to do multiple things at once. This week I've had quite a busy week actually, because I've been putting together the details for the Escape Velocity 12-hour stream, which I'll be talking about later. And I also thought that I'd better get round to installing the SSD I bought for my PC. So I finally did that last night and this morning, and I have to say it is sweet. If you don't have a solid state drive in your PC, at the very least for your operating system, get it on there, because it's brilliant. I've gone from restarting my PC and then going and making myself a cup of tea to actually rebooting it and sort of sitting and waiting patiently for it, because it happens so quickly. And actually it was much less moving my drive across was much less painless than I thought it was going to be. And in other news, the Kickstarter for Chaos Reborn audio drama, which I might talk about again later, has been going very well, and we are on, I think, like 93% of our initial total for episode 1. So I'm really hoping that if I talk about Chaos Reborn in a little bit, that lots and lots of people listening to the show live will go and back it and snag themselves some nice USB cards, game licenses and CDs, and maybe we'll hit our initial goal tonight during the show, because that would be very nice.
Okay, at this point, I would just like to say to Mr. Simon Woolcott, who'll be listening to this, you now have to drink 4 fingers worth of very strong whiskey. We'll have you pissed by the end of the show.
How many keywords did I mention?
You've mentioned twice so far, and I think we should, if you just mention a few more things about Chaos Reborn, I'm quite sure he'll be absolutely hammered in about 10 minutes.
Awesome.
So, Ben, what have you been up to this week?
There'll be palladium and then there rocks.
I've been mining.
Mining. Manically.
Yeah, space fishing.
And how have you been finding it now that it's been overhauled a little bit?
I hate fishing, and I'm not that big a fan of mining. It's, to be honest, it is a lot better than it was. It's still dull as heck, which is why it's space fishing.
You're not being interrupted by
But-
pirates at any point, or have you been found a nice little quiet pool?
Oh, I've got a sneaky little thing to do that basically, you go to your pristine ring, but instead of dropping into the resource extraction site, you drop a little bit out of it. And then no one's ever going to find you there.
I see. Well, how about outside your game?
Outside my game, I've done absolutely sweet Fanny Adams. Oh, actually, that's a lie. That's a lie. I went and watched the rugby, didn't I? I saw the New Zealand versus Australia match and enjoyed several beers.
Only several.
Only several. It was only 80 odd minutes.
Yeah, true. So, Mr. Woolcott, what have you been up to this week?
Well, I was doing some little tuitions in how to host a live radio call, and tonight Chris Jarvis is putting all that into practice, which is good news, and seems to be so far, cross fingers, it's going well for him, which is great. And he's all prepped and hopefully ready to go and do that too. It's been a week of obviously catching up with bits of work. My grand's flat sale is now pretty much confirmed, but it means that one of those unfortunate things where you go, right, okay, so I need to get the house totally emptied by this weekend, so I've got everything organised, and then I get a message through from one of the Kickstarters, the Stag Do, and it's premiere this weekend that I've got a night out to go to, and I'm going to have to cancel it. So I had to send my apologies to them because I'm going to have to empty my grand's flat. It's going on auction, so they need to get photographs of it emptied. And then I got a phone call tonight which stepped it up even further because it sounds like they've had an offer of sale, which is great. So that'll be something amazing to get off my back. So it's been just paperwork, lawyers, solicitors, that. Then I've been doing some running around. On Monday was just like, oh crikey, doctors, specialists with regards to the property, meeting them at the house, and then running to tip, just to kind of like, that way that sometimes you get things done, and at the end of the day you've done tons of things that are really unimportant and don't do anything good for you, and you sit there going, oh. But today was really, really different. Today, I went and saw some kittens.
Oh, you do realise that the latest research shows that your cat does want to kill you.
Yes.
Just thought I'd put that up in there.
Well, it was an interesting experience because obviously I recently lost our cats, and I was always intending on getting either one or two cats to replace them, but I wanted to go for the breed that I kind of enjoy, which is the British Shorthair. It's a lovely natured cat, and just really good with children. Not that we've got any young children hanging around particularly much, but what was interesting
Apart from yourself, Grant.
apart from myself, yeah, I'm bound to get bitten and scratched to hell. But the father of the kittens was one of the most brazen, demanding cat I have ever met. It made my cat look positively, withdrawn. And essentially, if you didn't give him enough attention, well, he'd climb up you. This thing. And, he's clawing your hand, going and moving your hand where he wants you to scratch. You're thinking, oh, for goodness sake, this high-maintenance cat. Beautiful, absolutely stunning. And so they've got a sort of nice little litter of, I think, 8 kittens, and they're lilac coloured. There's blue, British short hair, which is stunning, and then there's a little cream, and they are all 4 weeks old, so they shall be coming to join us in the Wolcott household. 2 of them, a little lilac and a little cream one, just after Christmas, which will be lovely.
Oh, that's a nice, heartwarming story.
It is. So I thought I'd put some pictures up on Facebook and show people these beautiful kittens. And they're all beautiful, British Shorthairs and stunning little cats. Really, really nice. And a certain Mobius put up "Kill it with fire."
Well, I think you should put a lot more of these kittens on the forum just to calm people down a bit. Just to let them chill. Because there does seem to be a little bit of angst on the forums. Oh, well, there always seems to be angst on the forums. As far as myself, well, let's see. I'm still coming down after Fantasticon. I've put up a battle report for the X-Wings miniature game onto the forum, so people can see how the games played out and how they, what the results were. Some of which were extremely amusing. Special shout out goes to John Hoggard for managing to die twice. One of which times he wasn't even in his own ship. So, fair play to him for that. Apart from that, I've been having a chat with Mr. Dave Hughes about how these models could be reused in the role-playing game, and we made a little bit of progress with that. So I made an addendum to the license application for the miniatures game, which means that the gaming pieces for my game could also be reused in the RPG at a later point. Apart from that, the real life, unfortunately, is still the usual grind, so less said about that, the better. And I finally managed to get a permit to Akinar, and I've got no idea how. It just seemed to have, I managed to rank up to Surf, and I've now got access. So, that's me.
That's amazing. The gods of the internet were listening last week and granted your wish.
Yeah, they appear to have done so, and I do not understand why, because when you look at the wiki, it's normally got to be the 4th rank up.
Yeah, maybe Ed pressed the button.
That'd be very nice of him if he did.
I think part of the community goal that there was a reduction in the rank required, so it may be part of that, and I don't know if it's permanent or temporary, so I would take full advantage of it just in case it does expire.
Yes, and I fully intend to. So Top Shift 50, which I was going to be out this week about the tabletop game, is going to be moved back. And the next Top Shift will be about the trip to Akinar, which there's a little bit of controversy about that system, apparently. Apparently, it's not how people were expecting it. And there's even a whole petition about it.
I have to say, I mean, Alan's not here, so I'll have to chime in terms of the law stuff. But the thing about Akinar, if I recall from my elite law history, is that the reason we have a federation and an empire is because some initial settlers found a new system with an Earth-like world that they thought was really good, so they settled there. And because they'd found this Earth-like world, and they were able to kind of sustain themselves, that actually when there was politics between these far-flung colonies and the homeworld of Earth, that actually the Imperials decided to go it alone, and Akinar was their base for going alone because it was a system from which they could kind of survive. And it seems to me very bizarre if they're trying to sort of rewrite elite history so that Akinar is a water world and always has been a water world. It strikes me as a very unlikely place for the Empire to, decide to settle and kind of found there. I mean, there's plenty of other Earth-likes nearby that would have become the kind of heart of the Empire. So I don't think it's necessarily a huge issue. I mean, I'm not as kind of hung up by law as perhaps I might be, but I think that Frontier need to do some work on explaining the fiction. If Akinar is the seat of the Empire, why would they choose as the seat of the Empire such an inhospitable and impractical world to live on? I mean, I appreciate that some people want it petitioned to be removed back to an Earth-like. I did see someone suggesting that there could be a community goal to ship Hutton mugs and Hutton sponges, and we all go and soak up the oceans and drop them off somewhere. But no, I mean, I think it's. I just think Frontier need to do a little bit of work, maybe, if they're going to establish that the seat, the heart of the empire, their capital, if you like, very called capital, that they need to explain why, how and why that's the thing. That's just my view on it.
Well, we've got one or two little fan theories that can work in. One, the original emperor liked water, or two, he had a thing for mermaids. But we'll leave it for that for the moment and move on. So we'll cover some development news, I think. This week we missed, as per usual, the latest stream with the SRV fighting for Frontier Developments. Now, like I said, I think I was the only one that saw this the stream live because it was happening about half an hour before we went live. And I take it everybody's caught up?
Yep.
Oh yeah. Lovely
Okay.
video.
So, what does everybody think? I mean, I'm assuming that everybody has read the notes, and we're a week behind, so I'm assuming that most of the community have caught up. What was your first impressions?
Well, I really like it. It's it looks great, and I think there's one of the little touches that I really liked about it, and I'm sure Frontier will appreciate people noticing this, and I'm almost certain I'm not the first person to point this out. But actually, it was really interesting this time round to see how, when you go in to take control of the turret weapon on the SRV, that you go to a separate camera, and there's a nice little sort of video monitor switching on effect with that. But the thing I particularly liked about it is that when you first go to that turret cannon, before obviously all hell breaks loose and you start firing, it really looks like the camera on the top of the Mars rover. If you compare that video of them going to that turret camera to the videos that the Mars rover was sending back, they must have done that deliberately, because the field of vision is the same, and I don't know whether it's just something inherent in having a camera kind of mounted on top of a wheeled vehicle like that, but to me I just thought, wow, that they have really tried hard to look at the Mars rover footage and say, how can we make the SRV stuff look like that, which I think is just, absolutely fantastic. And I know I said last week that the sort of turret mounted combat needed to maybe feel a little bit like the stuff in Batman Arkham Knight with the Batmobile, and I think actually it looks like it is that sort of thing. And I was laughing as well because there was another little moment that reminded me of Star Raiders 2. I'm going to keep pitching the case for Star Raiders 2 to be a good game on RetroLave. But there was that moment where the hover units kind of jinked to the left, and it just reminded me of the motion of the ships in Star Raiders 2. So hopefully I'm going to be well set for being able to take them on.
Ben?
I mean, I just loved the physics of it all. I loved the fact that you could actually see that they were on a much lower gravity world when the way they were driving around, the length of your jumps. Ignore the pew pew stuff. I've still not gotten over them driving, and I just think it looks so much fun to do. I can't wait to have races and things like that down on the planet.
Yeah, I think the buckyball people are there. Think they're already planning routes. I think the best way of putting it. Yeah, we're going to have our own gumball rally at some point, aren't we?
Oh yeah.
Grant, what did you think?
It looks like it's another part of the game where I'm not going to be able to shoot shit. But it looks
it's funny. Epic. Everybody seemed to have a little bit of concern about the fact that how's the HOTAS going to work?
Well, I think it looks like it might be one of these particular methods where you're better off with mouse to control the turret, which would be epic, and your kind of Grand Theft Auto car keys. So, I mean, it might call out for being able to do a control profile switch. Or I know you can set it up with two, but I think for the kind of intricate controls that you're going to need to keep that SRV on the system on the surface. You're going to really need that kind of thing that keys bring. That's one point where when you're playing Grand Theft Auto, doing those tight corners and things, you're wanting the ability for the quick adjustments that you can with a keyboard. That a throttle and HOTAS, the stick's just not going to cut it on that. I don't think. It'll be interesting. I'll give it a shot. In fact, it could be quite amazing, actually, now that I think of it on the HOTAS, to have that and to use that kind of flight assist off mode to put your SRV into some bizarre positions. But the laser fire looked like a movie. I know we talked about way back in the beginning when Star Citizen released its first bit of gameplay, and we all looked at it, and the graphics were stunning like a movie. And when we looked at the alpha of Elite, quite there, and now Elite it's like a movie. It's just, you could essentially plan your scenes and make your own background science fiction stuff. And now with the planetary landings, you're going to be able to have that amazing footage of the SRVs. It's unbelievable. I love it. Absolutely love it. Can't wait to do it.
There was a bit of...
Go on.
So I was going to say that there was a bit of a moment on the video that I thought was a real tease, and I'm sure this is deliberate, that they were kind of holding it back so that it's maybe a big reveal for another video, or maybe even they won't even show us what it looks like until we get to play it ourselves. I wouldn't be surprised if Frontier do that. But there was... they were demonstrating, obviously, flying the ship over the planet's surface. And there was this moment where I blanked on his name. The developer was
Adam.
basically, what's that? Adam, yeah, was flying down to the surface, and he was going to land and deploy the SRV. And I was watching it, thinking, oh, we're going to see the SRV deployment, and then they just cut away from the video feed, and then didn't cut back to it until he was in the SRV. And I thought, oh, I'd have loved to have seen the landing.
No, they said that. They said that in the Ed was there. He's going, well, we're going to keep that for another video.
Yeah.
And I must admit, going back to what I was saying about Ben and his anticipation, it's very much that kind of tease. You know what I mean? So well done in teasing as you get. Right.
Yeah, just to say, I've had a message from Zach just about the Achenar Waterworld issue. Mike Brooks has it on his list to look at, and they have read the messages from people. They are aware of it and aware of people's feelings. He hasn't said anything about what that solution is, or I've sort of asked him whether it's something deliberate they're doing or whether it's a side effect of a galaxy change, maybe it had an accidental impact, but it just said that they're aware of it, they've read people's messages, and Mike Brooks has it on the list to look at.
Ooh, looks like the Stellar Forge might be getting a bit of a poke then.
Well, maybe, or it might be, I mean, if Michael Brooks is looking at it, then it might be that he's going to write something in that explains it. I don't know, because the thing that occurred to me when I first saw it is it would be really interesting if Frontier wanted to make a point about letting your polar caps melt, that maybe Achenar had huge polar caps and now the entire planet is underwater, because that could be a thing.
Yeah, it could be a thing, and then you could have Kevin Costner and a boat and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But yes,
what you're saying there is sometimes it's easier to change the story than it is to rewrite the code.
Really?
I'm a great believer in that.
I never would have guessed that one.
Do you know why Lara Croft has a backpack?
Oh, go on then.
Well, they had a problem with the Lara Croft model. There was a point on the middle of her back that didn't animate properly. I don't know if it's because that game was done in the old days when you couldn't do convex meshes. And apparently they stuck the backpack on to cover up a glitch on the model in the animation. And that's the only reason it went on.
It wouldn't surprise me, because the original Lara Croft model when you saw it was basically a very, very, very close to Minecraft, but with a bit more enhancement, obviously, and better animation. But it was very blocky. And when you go back to seeing Tomb Raider Anniversary, I must admit you do notice the improvements a heck of a lot. But that's another game. So we'll move on to the Sound in Space video that came out, where was it Jim Croft went through some of the presentation on how to put together the soundscape for Elite Dangerous. Did anyone else see this one?
Yes.
I saw
seen
it,
that
yeah.
one.
I can't remember a lot about it, apart from thinking, hey, that was a really good video, really in-depth. I don't think it was Jim Croft, though. It was somebody else.
Wasn't.
I can't remember who it was. It was Matthew Florians.
Florians, yeah.
Sorry, Matthew. Yes, okay then, Matthew. Now, I caught bits of this earlier, and I must admit, I didn't realise how much the background and the ambient sound of the ship actually makes you more immersive. And it's only when they pointed it out to me that I began to notice how much work had gone in. I mean, Chris, as our sound expert, what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was really interesting. I mean, I really, from my point of view, because obviously with the audio drama and stuff, I do spend a lot of my time layering up quite complicated sounds, from sort of individual sources. I think the thing that was interesting to me, which is something that I really don't know anything about at all, is just how much of that is done in real time. And the way that obviously, because this isn't something that I have to think about, but obviously the game, the soundscape of the game is responding to real time events that the game engine is generating, and for me, that's fascinating. And it's also interesting, just the way that they have little sounds in there that give. They're very sort of specific bits, because it's not the thing that's really interesting about it, and I think this is why everyone should go and watch it and appreciate the work that goes into designing any kind of soundscape, but particularly a game soundscape, is it's about giving feedback to the player. It's not just about creating something that sounds amazing. This is why we sort of need to mention in passing that Elite Dangerous didn't unfortunately win any of its Golden Joystick Awards, which I think was a shame. And Elite absolutely deserved the award for sorry, I'm about to pancake in Slave Station. Elite absolutely deserved the award for best audio.
The audio.
Because it's not just about making something that sounds really impressive. It's about giving little sound cues that give feedback to the player about what they're doing and how they're doing, and it's an important information layer for a game, and I think Elite does that better than really anything else. This is one of the reasons I'm struggling to do this stream, because I've got the game sounds completely muted, and actually with the sound off, Elite is a really hard game to play, I think, whereas there are other games that you might play that, to be honest, I do quite often turn the sound off on games and listen to a podcast or an audio drama instead, because not a lot of other games really make the audio that much of a tool. I mean, it's like if you've ever, other games do it in a much more basic way. Like if you've ever tried playing a first-person shooter with the sound off, you die all the time because you can't hear people coming up behind you. And you'd be surprised if you're used to playing first-person shooters like with sound and stuff, if you try and do it without sound, how much harder it is. And Elite is like that. It gives you all kinds of cues about how your ship is handling, where your opponents are, what kind of environment you're in. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if, because we've sort of speculated about the reasons for current planetary landings only being on airless rocky worlds. And actually, the more I see videos like the sound thing and like the planetary landing videos that they were showing, the more I understand how much of a difference having an atmosphere is going to make to Elite. Not only in terms of things like the flight model, and even just the way the light streams through the atmosphere. I mean, they were talking on that video about how if you fly up to a planet with an atmosphere, you can actually see the atmosphere slightly bending the light from the sun if you do a kind of sunrise thing. But if you think about it, when you're down on that planet's surface, they've got to come up with an entirely new light model for the way light travels through an atmosphere, but they've also got to come up with totally different sounds for the way sound travels in an atmosphere. And I have no doubt at all that they will be looking at that and saying, how do we make this sound like a world full of atmosphere? And that is no small undertaking.
Ben.
Not only that, but also sound will sound differently in different atmospheres, won't it? So if you're in like a nitrogen-rich atmosphere or a oxygen-rich atmosphere or whatever, it's all going to sound totally different, isn't it?
Well, I'm not. Do you know what? I'm gonna stand to be corrected here because my science is not good enough for this. But I believe the difference of sound in atmosphere is purely based on density. I'm not totally sure that different chemical compositions make a difference, but certainly the density of the atmosphere, because it's sound is compression waves in air. So if you've got a less dense atmosphere, which might be a result of it being a lighter gas, but generally speaking, I think it's down to density rather than composition. But I'm
thinking,
welcome
silly
correction.
things like when you inhale helium. Now, obviously, that's going into your lungs, but it makes things vibrate at different levels, doesn't it?
I believe that helium does something funny to your vocal cords that makes them stretchier. I don't think it actually affects the sound, though. I think it affects your body tissue, which is why I'm always a little bit unhappy about doing it. Even though everyone says it's good fun,
but
it's all fun and games until someone loses a throat.
Well, no, it just increases the sort of percentage of the helium, which is a lighter gas, in your lungs, so it passes through your vocal cords slightly fast, increasing the pitch, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Well, all I can say about inhaling helium is do not take it straight from the bottle, take it from the balloon.
Ouch!
Otherwise you will be calling for help for the paramedics in a Mickey Mouse voice, according to according to Jason Manford.
I can neither confirm or deny this.
Yeah.
Yes, Starion is now confirming it allows the vocal cords to vibrate faster because of the less dense, must be less dense, was it? Hence the higher pitch.
Mm.
So a denser air would obviously then slow the vocal cords down.
Yes,
I
but
did
what's gonna
promise
do to
wild,
the sound
unqualified
travelling
speculation.
to you?
Well, I mean, one thing that I'm looking forward to when these things happen is what the effect is going to be like when you actually hit atmosphere and when you actually go down to the planet. Because I can imagine that they'll do it properly with a proper re-entry, and you'll be able to see the fire around the shields and all that kind of stuff. And as first time we do it, we'll all be there going, "Oh, it's fantastic!" So I'm looking forward to this people's. We've got pretty high expectations for this kind of atmospheric planetary approach. So, anybody else got anything to add to that? No? Well, let's move it along a little, and we'll discuss the Meet the Team. Mr. Steve Kirby was up for perusal today from the Frontier Developments, lead game designer. Now, it's pretty obvious that this Steve, it seems to be just your typical elite player who likes to do little bits of mad things on the side, such as writing parodies, as we've got here, and we've also got fun things about him making his own soft toys in his spare time. Does anybody, the interview, did anybody actually take anything new from what he was saying?
No.
Nope. Okay, moving on.
I think some of these, because I think when we were doing the Meet the Teams during the alpha process and the gamma, and this is no disrespect to the people that we've been meeting, it's just that we're now talking. There's nothing new coming out yet. Maybe as we get Horizon starting to come, we'll get people that are more critical and I don't want to say more interesting, but I don't know, maybe more exciting rather than interesting, because some of the stuff is interesting to see these guys and to see what they're up to and how they've been involved in the project. But what we want is Horizons! Just everything Horizons. Tell us about the SRVs. Are you working on the SRVs? Are you? Oh, well, tell us about it then. And it's just kind of, at first we were desperate for information, and now we're kind of rich in information. We're rich in this, and it makes it really tricky to get passionately into these otherwise that would have been read and read every letter of them. You now kind of skim read them because we're kind of spoiled with information, and you do have that dilemma. Do I read this Meet the Team? Is it a particular department I'm interested in, or am I in the middle of a community goal? Should I be mining? Should I be bounty hunting? Should I be involved in the war at Hutton? And it really is, they're competing with the game time. So do I play the game, or do I read your development log? Well, your development log's about Horizons. I'm really excited about that, so I'm definitely going to look at that. And then Horizons will come out. We'll get some more weeks where it's interesting, and then we'll get to the point where you're kind of feeling it's like that light article. It's going, they're going through the motions, and the meet the teams is a wonderful section. But at the moment, we're so rich with information that it's difficult to kind of get really enthusiastic about them, in my opinion.
So is
So-
now a good time to mention the Planet Coaster Dev Diary then?
Yes, because that is actually very exciting about the future of Elite Dangerous, I think.
Well, just before we move on to that, I'll just point out that Mr. Kirby is in charge of doing community goals. So if he feels offended by anything that Grant has said, I'm quite sure he could arrange a community goal to go after any psycho cow or insulting person on this radio.
To be honest, if they think, after the success of Hutton Orbital, which, let's face it, should have been the one community goal that would be destined to fail, never mind succeed greatly, it is something that we could say to them, like, go on, do your worst, we'll take it on. And I shouldn't do that, because
Don't say that, Grant. Don't say it.
Let's poke that luck monkey right in his eyes. But no, I mean, they're competing with information from other sources, and it is very difficult for it to remain that real attention grabber. So I have to confess that a lot of times, and even when I should be reading them with great interest and detail for the show, I tend to skim read it and see if there's anything that grabs my attention with the full intentions of going back to analyse it for the show. And then it's Tuesday and already it's too late. So there's just so much for us to try and keep our minds on at the moment, and yeah, I find that the Meet the Team kind of slips down my priority list a little bit.
It's nice fluff, but it is fluff. And I love reading them. I love finding out about these other developers who are basically, putting a nice human face on Frontier, which is awesome. And that's a good thing for Frontier to do. But it's fluff.
Yeah, but equally, we are all very involved and very busy in preparing stuff from other points of views. And I suppose our time does come down to priorities with real life and your game life, and then your creations, your Dockers, the various different things, Hutton Orbital. They all take those slices of time. And so I might be speaking from a point of view of someone who has too much going on. In which case, these are the things that are slipping off my list of attention. So they are really great articles, as you say, and the community spotlights as well. But it just seems to be at the moment, everything's coming hell for leather. The community goals are there's no gaps. And then, of course, Civil War and Hutton. So all the things that we were interested in, we wanted to help with the station being built in the Nebula. We wanted to be involved in the Civil War, to try and help us expand. So we've got that particular thing. Then we've got the Hutton GIMP going on, which is the mug proliferation, which is delivering mugs to various different places for a competition which runs till January. And all these things require us to keep track of them. So it just probably, from my point of view, I've got other things that are slightly more of a priority than the Meet the Devs, as much as they used to be fantastic and great entertaining. I think they're competing now. They're competing against things that they didn't have to compete with before.
And they say there's nothing to do.
So, do you wanted to talk about the Planet Coaster?
Oh, I do. Sorry, I was just typing.
pajamas.
I was typing instructions to you in Skype. Yeah, no, I just they did the first dev diary for Planet Coaster, and I think there are a few interesting things that came out of it. There was one of the most interesting things is that they've not run a Kickstarter for Planet Coaster in the same way that they did for Elite Dangerous, and I think they really gained a lot. I know Frontier will, have said in the past, I know that the Kickstarter feels a little bit like ancient history now, but I think Frontier feel like there was lots of good stuff in the Kickstarter for them in terms of building community, in terms of getting people to buy into the product, and in terms of the kind of behind the scenes following. So they've tried to replicate that with their current offering in the Frontier store. So you can go in and you can go into the Frontier store and you can buy the basic game, you can buy the game with access to beta, you can buy the game with access to Oh dear, I'm going to have to try and bring up the web page without killing the rest of my stream. But there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can kind of get now from the Frontier store that is very similar to the sorts of things that you might offer as rewards in a Kickstarter. And I think what Frontier are trying to do, and I think it's a really positive thing, is to try and replicate that Kickstarter vibe. Maybe without, because obviously people talk about how great the comments channel was for the Elite Dangerous Kickstarter, but they've obviously not got that, but they've got their own fairly well established forums and community site now. But I think they are trying to build a vibe around Planet Coaster that is not dissimilar to Kickstarter.
I mean, it's good to see that there's more to one string to Frontier's bow, and it's nice to see that the polish that we've seen in Elite Dangerous is moving on to other projects as well. So it'll be interesting to see how this one develops in time.
I think they have I think they have always done a lot of stuff, but I think the size of the games that they're doing, in terms of the visibility of them and in terms of how much they're putting into them, I think they're upping the scale. Elite's been a huge game for them. I think they want Planet Coaster to be another huge game for them. And I think some of the other stuff they've done maybe over previous years is has been a bit more of a kind of jobbing, sort of day-to-day type of game development. And obviously working on their own tech a little bit. But I mean, they've done what I think is becoming quite a typical Frontier approach, which is their first dev diary. They were straight in talking about tech and simulation, and I think I don't really worry about it, because I know that what Frontier will do is use the interesting things that come out of simulation to build gameplay. But if you haven't seen it, do go and find the Planet Coaster dev video. It's basically they're talking about the mechanics of crowd simulation, and they're talking about how they're simulating crowds differently to how other games simulate crowds. And the reason for that being, I presume lessons learned from Elite Dangerous, is that they are looking at how gameplay changes when you look at something on a big scale, like a whole park, down to zooming all the way in on an individual visitor to your park. And I think they want each individual person in your crowd to be an individual character who does different things and is worth kind of looking at and following. Whereas I think maybe previous park management games, they've ended up being a bit generic. I mean, even with the wildest of variety, most games end up with sort of 10 or 15 different types of visitors. So it'll be interesting to see what they're doing with it. And it was really fascinating to watch how they're programming the game. They're programming people to act like crowds, not like dots in a particle simulation.
Well, I want to actually turn it round on its head, and I think it's awesome they're doing all this in Cobra, basically. Can you think of anything maybe a couple of years down the line, after Planet Coaster is released, that could use crowd simulation? Tell me they can't take the data that they've got and the lessons learned that they've got from one place and put it into something else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, yeah, it's
I
sharing
think
that
that's
technology.
so
Isn't it?
exciting.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I wouldn't be surprised if, because at the moment inside the space stations, and I have to confess, this isn't an original thought, you've prompted me to think of this, but obviously inside the stations at the moment we can see vehicles moving around little gantries. It wouldn't surprise me if in a little while we don't start seeing people walking past windows and milling around on the surface of the space stations. That'd be really interesting.
Doing the actual docking and unloading and loading your ship. Or at least refueling it and things.
Yeah, quite.
Damn right. We want Jack Soffalos and Co. outside of your Anaconda as you land or something.
Oh no, you wouldn't.
That would be that would be a scary thing, wouldn't it?
I'm so surprised that they haven't blown up Boston base already. To be honest. Right. Well, we'll move along a little bit to the latest dev update, and we can also discuss the sneak peek gameplay that Mr. Braben seems to be placing on the streams every now and again, just to get people slavering at the mouth. I mean, did anybody think that there was something new in the latest dev update that we had from Mr. Brooks. I especially like the fact that he's now pointing out about different kinds of points of interest and different kinds of loot.
It is just a big, massive teasing exercise, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
they're doing a wonderful way of whipping our excitement up and getting us all desperate to get into Horizons, but they don't need to do it anymore. They just have to show that video. And so the next week's dev update should just be another video of that SRV video just showing us so we can all go, I so want to have a shot. That looks like so much fun. So again, they're being very careful to give us hints but not say anything definite, just to keep us all frustrating. They're putting us back into the F5 hammering zombies that we were way back during the sort of alpha and gamma stages. But it is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that they're now saying that they've got. We've seen in the sneak peek the man-made constructs where we saw them racing through a base, some kind of mining base, which basically got everybody going, "Oh, have you seen that?" But it then goes on to discuss the points of interest, which could be just crash trading vessels and cargo canisters, and then he teases us with the ultimate one, which is there are points of interest that don't neatly fit into the above groupings. We can leave them for you to discover for yourselves, which sort of just makes you go, "Oh, you get."
Hey, big sandworms.
Yes, that's right. Grant would like a big sandworm to eat his ship like in Empire Strikes Back. There you go. There's a community goal for him.
Actually, do you think as part of Horizons we're going to get bigger and more varied asteroids? Because they're all, they're not samey, but there's no really big asteroids or anything like that that you could say park an Imperial Clipper into.
Well, when you think about it, they've got some planetoids coming up in Horizons, which are going to be effectively big asteroids. I mean, Pluto's only 6,000 miles across? It's absolutely tiny.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that technically you could say that's one of the biggest asteroids in the system. And I'm now bracing myself for a whole load of people coming in saying, "No, it's a planet. No, it's a planetoid." I'm not getting involved in that. I don't have the astronomical know-how to back it up.
Not
But,
astrological.
Is it maybe just a small moon?
That's
That's no moon. Oh dear. Well, touching on all that stuff, we also go into the latest newsletter, which, as well as going over the dev newsletters that we've had so far, we unfortunately know that they didn't manage to get anything in the golden joysticks, which I think we can all agree they was robbed.
I can't comment on that exactly because I haven't played the game that won the sound, so I don't know if it's a really good game or not.
You can comment on it. They was robbed.
Yes.
I think they was, but I haven't played the other game. It might have the best sound ever.
That's not likely, is it? I mean, that's the thing, that's what I think. Alien Isolation has great atmospheric music and that wonderful sort of dynamic background sound, but when maybe again it comes down to the knowledge and getting to see these videos showing how the sound's done. It gives you that real strong appreciation of how amazing the Elite Dangerous sounds are and how subtle they are, and yeah, it's horrific that they didn't win it. It's an injustice. We demand a recount.
Yeah.
And in case
the same referee that Scotland did.
Ooh,
and in case Simon's glass is running dry, I'm going to mention Chaos Reborn, because unfortunately Chaos Reborn missed out on their Golden Joystick Award as well, and of course lost out to Kerbal Space Program. But frankly, I think everyone's lost out to Kerbal Space Program because it's just such a juggernaut of a game. And again, it goes back to the point that Chaos Reborn isn't finished. And it does make you wonder how the kind of selection process for the Golden Joysticks works, because if you can have a game nominated that's still in early access and isn't even finished, at the time, then it's a bit weird, because then will these games be eligible another year? I suspect not.
Yeah, well, I'm afraid to say I also voted for Chaos Reborn. Simon, another drink, please. And I think you're always disappointed when the ones that you really hope will get recognised. It's it's a shame. But yeah, we've also noticed that we've got new digital items coming to the Frontier store, mostly bobbleheads, and how you can actually gift them to other people. So I think everybody might be sending Crash a bobblehead in the near future.
Have we not got the tactical hair pack yet?
The tactical hair pack? No, I think they're still working on that one, aren't they?
Oh, goodness
Yeah.
me. Sorry, a huge anaconda just flew straight past my cockpit, very close indeed. And sideways. I think they're taking in turns to buzz my cockpit because I'm hosting the hosting the stream.
Just to make sure that you're trying to crash Lave Radio, are you? You horrors.
Yeah. I keep feeling bad because I keep locking onto a player that's hanging around outside Lave Station, but he's keeping his distance because he's wanted and he's got a bounty on him. So I keep clicking on him and then being like, "Oh God, no! Don't show everyone that."
One of the images that went absolutely viral this year was the one from VG247 about the gentleman who unfortunately went between two suns. Did you see the cartoon?
I did see the cartoon. That's good.
Nice. That's going to be a meme right there. Everything is fine. This is fine.
Yeah. I know, it's funny actually, because obviously I'm going to talk about Escape Velocity in a minute, but when we wrote Escape Velocity, I was kind of writing about the idea that flying between trying to do a fuel scoop in a binary system is a really bad idea. And I got a few messages from people saying, of course, the science of it is that actually fuel scooping around a binary system isn't dangerous at all because they're so far apart. And actually, I think the game has kind of borne me out as saying there are some binary systems that are actually really dangerous.
Yeah. All right. So, Chris, would you like to talk about Escape Velocity and the latest news that we've got with that?
Oh, I would like to talk about Escape Velocity. I'm just very quickly going to give a shout out to the Chaos Reborn Kickstarter, which is at tinyurl.com/chaos audio, because we are £85 away from making our initial target. Woo! I should have a sound effect queued up for applause and cheers and things, but I'm not as prepared as Grant. And yeah, basically, so that will be, if we hit that first target, that is episode 1, that is definitely happening, and then, we're into stretch goals. And so bear in mind that this Kickstarter's been running since the beginning of last week, so we've had 1 week and we're already 1 episode funded, so I'm really hopeful that we're going to be able to get some more people interested and that we're going to get this up to multiple episodes. And the thing that's great is, I'm going to put this in as a rush so that you all run in and get it. The current USB pledge tier for the Chaos Reborn Kickstarter, that's going to go up slightly once we hit the target and once I get round to editing the Kickstarter. Hint hint, it won't happen straight away. That will go up because that USB pledge level is for the entire series that gets funded through Kickstarter. So if you pledged it now when there's only 1 episode and we manage to get to 3 episodes, you get all 3 of them. So what I want to kind of impress upon people is that what I really want is I want new backers to come on board. I'm not asking for people who are already backers to go on and jaunty up and increase their pledge level to more expensive things. I would really genuinely like to see more people come onto the project and discover Chaos Reborn and discover the fantasy full cast audio drama that we're going to be producing. Anyway, teasing long enough, I'm going to talk about Escape Velocity. This is where it all goes horribly wrong. Have I not even set it up? Okay, bear with me a minute.
Go through details for a minute, guys.
Yeah, I might actually. I need to just play around with OBS for a minute to bring up the information sheets. So yes, escape velocity. So for those of you who haven't been sort of following the story, escape velocity was on hiatus for a little while because I was working on the Elite Dangerous audiobooks, and then there was question marks over whether we'd be able to produce it as an official Elite product, and we haven't really had any movement on that. But what we can do is we can continue escape velocity as an unofficial audio drama, and we can raise money to make the series through Patreon. So this is a slightly different beast than Kickstarter. For those of you that haven't encountered Patreon, you basically pledge an amount of support per episode. I really want to stress that, because I don't want someone to go on and think, yes, I'll pledge the amount that I'm prepared to give for escape velocity, and then realise that actually the site will try and take that for every episode that I release. So do have a think about that. What's happening is that Patreon campaign is going live this Saturday, and on Sunday from 12 p.m, so that's midday Greenwich Mean Time, until midnight Greenwich Mean Time, I'm going to be doing a 12-hour live Twitch stream to do two things. One is to kind of celebrate escape velocity, to do some interesting things talking about the series and hopefully answering people's questions, and also to raise money to make the new series. And not just the new series, what I'm looking at is we want to keep escape velocity going, and we want to make it a great ongoing serial that people can keep coming back to. Hopefully that's worked. So we've got so we've got the live stream on Sunday. The things that I will be doing on the live stream. So let me just pull in another image here.
While you're doing that, can I give a shout out to Commander Marktis, who has just gone on to pledged, and apparently there is £26 left now.
Oh, brilliant! Fantastic! Thank you all very much. Really appreciate it, and it's going to be a great series. And I'm actually currently working on getting some examples of the physical rewards, because I think they're going to look really nice. And there are actually, for those of you that haven't got Chaos Reborn and would like to, and don't mind waiting until the Kickstarter finishes to get a license, some of the pledge tiers do come with a copy of the game, so you can get stuck in as well. But anyway, escape velocity. So I've put up the details here. This is a sort of general timetable for the day. One of the things I'm going to be doing is taking my ship and doing a bit of a tour around the locations that are used in escape velocity. Now this is going to be a really interesting experiment. I'm not going to practice it before we get to the stream day. I have had a look around the star map in Elite Dangerous to look for some of the locations that were used in Elite Dangerous, in Escape Velocity, and to see what the current status of them is. And I think it's going to be a really interesting tour, because there are some significant changes. There are some systems that aren't even there. There are some systems that are there and seem to have gained planets. And so, because, you know, for those of you that have heard Escape Velocity, it was written before any of us had even got our hands on Elite Dangerous, and really it was written based on Frontier Elite 2. So that's why the current time setting of the series is 32:45. And, you know, I think it's going to be really interesting to see what those differences are, not just in the actual physical geography of the way the game's changed, but actually there are some journeys that in Frontier Elite 2 look really easy that actually in Elite Dangerous are much more difficult. So that's going to be going on. You can see from the timetable that I've put up on Twitch, if you're following there. There's various points where I'm doing different things, and it says that the Escape Velocity tour begins at 1 o'clock. I don't know how long it's going to take. And I'm going to be coming back to it throughout the course of the day. So there are various other things going on, you know. So basically, what's happening is 12 o'clock when it starts. Very kindly, Zach and Ed from Frontier are joining me to help me kick off the stream.
Ding 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 ding.
Hello.
We are funded.
2502.
Hey!
Well,
thank you all very
done,
much.
everybody.
That is absolutely awesome.
And super mega shout out to Alien, apparently.
Oh, fantastic! Thank you very much, Alien. Brilliant.
Commander Brave,
So I'm going to have to go.
Braidwood in the Twitch stream has just added an extra $10.
Just added what? Just added $10 per episode for Escape
says-
Velocity. Oh right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean it's so yes. Thank you very much for that. That is absolutely brilliant. So that makes me now have to do a whole lot of work because there's a whole load of things I need to do now. The goal's been reached, so it's going to be a late night for me. But yeah, that's really thrown me. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you all very much.
Sorry, that was exciting news, and I figured I had to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm looking for some way that I can kind of share the Kickstarter page on Twitch, and I have absolutely no idea how to do it. Oh no, here we go. Hang on. Window capture. There it is. Oh, sort of, okay. Oh, it's showing all my tabs. Hopefully I don't have any embarrassing donkey porn going on in the background. So, sorry, that's not likely. I'm joking. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you all very much. Sorry, that's really thrown me. Thank you so much for the people that are watching tonight that have helped push that up over the edge. Thank you to everyone that's pledged to support it so far. That is absolutely fantastic. And I will be producing lots of news for that Kickstarter. Oh, it's gone up again. Fantastic. I'll be producing loads of news for the development of that series, and I'm looking at really cool rewards, basically for people that are backers of the Kickstarter. And the other thing that I really want to do, because I'm aware that there are some people that are going to, probably quite a lot of people, who are going to end up backing the Chaos Reborn audio series and Escape Velocity. I do also want to do something and do a proper thing for people who are fans of both and backers of both. So that's something I will be figuring out soon. Probably not in time for this weekend, but maybe. So thank you all very much. That's fantastic. So back to the stream day. So yeah, Zach and Ed are coming on right at the beginning to help me sort of find my feet and get it kind of going. And then at 1 o'clock I'm going to start my grand tour, and if I don't have time to finish it before we get on to the next thing, we'll be coming back to it. 3 o'clock, I'm talking Chaos Reborn again already. Julian Gollop has very kindly agreed to join me for an hour for this stream. Obviously we're going to be promoting the Chaos Reborn Kickstarter again, but I'm going to be streaming, I think probably the realm exploration, because we've streamed quite a lot of matches, and in terms of things like Chaos Champs that John Stabler and myself do, we've done quite a lot of that. So we're going to be looking at the realms, and I'm going to be interviewing Julian Gollop about the game. And for those of you that don't know, Julian Gollop is the creator of games like Laser Squad, Rebel Star, the original XCOM, and he's just a phenomenal guy, and his approach to game design is really interesting, and I'm personally really excited to find out some of the answers to the questions I'm going to be asking him about Chaos Reborn, which obviously I could ask him at any time, but I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it for the stream. Then at 4 o'clock we've got the first of our Escape Velocity actors coming in and joining me for a sort of interview and a chat about Escape Velocity related stuff. So I've got Rebecca Keeves, who was Lorand in Series 1 of Escape Velocity. She'll be coming in at 4 o'clock. And then later down the line at 6 o'clock, I've got Liam McCauley coming in, who played Dallas. And they're not going to be there, they're going to be there for about an hour. So as you can probably see from this, I do have a few gaps still in the timetable. I'm going to fill these by Sunday. I'm going to have more guests and people on. At 7 o'clock, at 7 o'clock I'm going to be doing something a bit different. I've been thinking about how you kind of write video game inspired fiction, and people ask me questions about kind of adapting games for fiction, and people ask me questions about how I got into it, and I had a moment of kind of revelation the other day when I realised what the first game was that inspired me to write video game fiction. So at 7 o'clock I'm going to be streaming that game for an hour. I'm not going to tell you what it is. It's a game that really just captured my imagination, and it was the first time I got a workbook out and I started writing my own stories based on the setting of that game. So we'll be talking about that on Sunday, and hopefully Alan will be able to join me for that. I know he's got some difficult stuff going on at the moment, but hopefully Alan will be joining me, and we'll be talking a bit about developing video game fiction. The only clue I'm going to give you for what that game is, if I can find it. Oh dear, you don't want to see me. So it's going to involve a little bit of talk about Tron. And it's going to involve a little bit of talk about inner space, and I am going to leave that with you there. So then after that, the last of our actors to come on, we're going to be joined by Amy Timms, who plays May throughout the series, and who is thankfully very excited and keen to come back for ongoing Escape Velocity episodes, despite the fact that she's now gone away to university. But we will work out recording stuff and we'll get her back so that May's journey with Thane can continue. And then at 9 o'clock, in a change to what we sometimes do, I am going to be the games master for a game of the Elite Encounters RPG. Dave Hughes is joining us as a player, and I'm going to see what kind of escape velocity magic I can work into an Elite Encounters RPG. And then the whole thing is going to wrap up with me being very tired at midnight. But that's not all. Because throughout the stream, I am going to be auctioning off the surviving director's scripts of Escape Velocity. So these are my personal scripts that I sat and worked with throughout the production of all the Escape Velocity episodes. They've got handwritten notes in, they've got coffee stains on, and there are, off the top of my head, there are 10 of them. There should be 10 of them left. I gave one of them away for Dave Hughes for one of his charity streams. So there should be 10 scripts which I'm going to be auctioning off to whoever wants them throughout the course of that stream. I'm going to do them in reverse order. So we're going to start with the last script, and we're going to culminate with at the end of the evening with an auction for the very, very, very first Escape Velocity script. And I read somewhere that when you have antiques that have mistakes on them, they are more valuable than antiques which are correct and up to date. And I can say that the original script for Escape Velocity was so hot off the press, I hadn't even called the series Escape Velocity then. So it still has its old title on the front, and it actually has a couple of other mistakes in it that have since been corrected in the digital version, but on the paper version they are still wrong, so that is one of a kind. And plus, throughout the stream, if I can figure out how to do stream giveaways, I'll be giving away badges and Escape Velocity badges, and hopefully some other stuff as well. So that's the Escape Velocity stream day. I'm really excited about doing it, partly because I'm as you can probably tell, I'm really new to streaming, and it's just exciting to be playing lots of Elite Dangerous for you guys on the stream, talking about Escape Velocity, which is something I absolutely love, and getting to talk to lots of people that I really like talking to. So that's Sunday the 8th of November, begins at 12 midday Greenwich Mean Time and finishes at midnight Greenwich Mean Time. So I do hope some of the American fans will be able to join us for some of that. So, where are we, Colin?
Well, I think if anybody has any protests, I'd like to move on to the community corner that has been happening lately. And the latest thing that has been announced has been a Name That Station, which has I think it's just gone up in the last couple of days, where we've got
I think it was today, actually, in fact.
Was it today?
Oh, no, sorry, yesterday.
Yeah. Zach put up a request for names for the Among the Stars community goal to build the station in the nebula, and I think at the moment the running favourite at the moment is a tribute to Obsidian Ant, who it was his videos and his pushing for the station in the nebula. that started off the whole community goal process. It seems to be taking on a life of its own with 18 pages worth of comments. So I think this is one of the things to show that Frontier is really beginning, well, not really beginning, but is engaging with its community in a far more proactive way than it used to.
Oh, is that true?
I'm beginning to think so. I do feel that in the last sort of 3-4 months, the amount of interaction has gone up a little bit more.
I think to be fair to them, I think they've understood, because of all the things that Frontier have been doing up to this point, they now understand how to put things out to the community and ask for stuff back that can then go back into the game in a meaningful way. I think before that, they didn't really necessarily know. They were sort of finding their feet with it a bit. But I think, on the basis that, off the back of the Kickstarter, they did things like the DDF, which was essentially asking for people's input on game design features. And let's not remember, the famous one we always quote is that the game only has supercruise at all because the people in the DDF didn't like the proposal that Frontier put forward for moving around solar systems. So Supercruise is something that entirely came out of the fact that when Frontier said, we're going to do this when you get in system, people said, that's a rubbish idea. So I think, they have fundamentally changed the game design based around, input from the community. So I think they have always been keen to have community involvement in content. But I agree with you, I think they're getting better at it, and I think they're getting better at putting lots of things out to the community and being able to kind of handle it and deal with it in a sensible way, and that's really positive. That's and whether that's down to the fact that the community team now is bigger than it has ever been in the time that I've been involved with Frontier, or whether that's because the development processes and the way that the game can be modified, with new content. Or maybe it's a bit of both, and yeah, it's really positive, and I think we'll only see more and more and more of it because it's a great way of keeping people interested and engaged.
Quite so. This hosting stuff is not as easy as it sounds. Well, on the subject of community, the community manager Edward Lewis was being educated. He started off a new weekly stream, which is Educating Ed, and the first episode was out last week of how to be a fuel rat. Now, did anybody else see this? Because I thought it was hilarious.
I have to confess, I haven't had a chance to catch up on it yet. It's sort of somewhere on my bucket list of things that I really want to try and watch.
So just me then.
I have seen it, but I've been talking for a long time, and I didn't want it to be the Chris Jarvis show.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that really struck me is how dedicated these fuel rat guys are, because I must admit, with the way that they actually down the build of their ship so that they are just flying fuel tanks, I think is phenomenal. And it just goes to show the dedication that they've got. So it was just an eye-opening sight to this kind of fan service that I just wish I'd chosen a completely different phrase then. But this
Phrasing!
Yeah, phrasing. Thank you, Archer. This kind of community-led service which helps other players for really not much reward for themselves apart from the amount of, I don't know, do they run a scorecard saying I've done 4,000 rescues, I've done 3,000 records? I don't know.
Yeah, it is pretty phenomenal actually, and I think it was a really entertaining stream. Again, it's another thing that I know some people have said that They may be struggling to find Frontier's videos on their YouTube page. I struggled on their YouTube homepage, but if you go to Frontier's channel and click on videos, then obviously you can see the videos they've posted in chronological order, and it's quite a recent one. And it is, even if it's not as kind of big and full of revelations as the kind of dev videos or some of the behind the scenes stuff, it's a really entertaining show to watch Ed going and flying with these guys. If I have one criticism, because you know me, I always like to include a a criticism along with everything I think is great. I think that some aspects of the video are, for me, highlighted the weakness in the Wings system. I'm going to keep going on about this. I still think that Wings has its problems. I think it has its problems in terms of networking, and I think it has its problems in terms of design. And I'm really hoping that Frontier haven't just kind of left Wings as it is, and that's now done, and they're going to just kind of leave it be. Because the whole process showing these fuel rats, it's very entertaining watching how these guys have learned to adapt to the way the game works so that they can find a player and go and rescue them.
Yeah.
But I have to say, for me watching it, and I don't know how Ed felt playing it, and I wouldn't want to speak for him. It felt really clunky. The whole process of finding a player, actually putting them on your friends list, then having to kind of create a wing with them, which, let's be fair, doesn't always work. And then kind of fly to their location, try and drop out on their beacon. It just felt really inelegant. And I think that the best things in game design are the ones which are actually really simplistic mechanisms. And I appreciate that kind of linking together hundreds of thousands of players in a universe is not an easy undertaking. So I'm not saying that Frontier haven't done something that they should have kind of knocked off in 20 minutes. But I'd really like to see Frontier go back to the drawing board with the way you can connect with players and the way the wings work, because it just seems broken a lot of the time. And it's a real shame. And I think that video highlighted some of the weaknesses in it.
Yeah, I think one of the weaknesses that we saw there was I do believe that you and Alan went bounty hunting after somebody had got hold of you, and the fact that you actually had to become friends with the person who greeted you in order to actually track him down.
That's right.
I think that kind of thing for player bounty hunting, although I would like to see it in the game, I do think that's that kind of process, which links into this kind of how do you attach to a player that you're not really friends with, but you want to help them out. And I think that is one big gaping hole that they're going to have to fill at some point.
Yeah, no, I agree with you absolutely. Yeah, to have to actually add someone to your friends list to go and hunt them for a bounty is insane. That's, that's just. I mean, it's fun if people are up for it.
Nemesis list or something.
Yeah, it would just be good if there was a way of finding and connecting with players in game without the friends list being the be all and end all. Some sort of way you could. I mean, a bit like you sort of have it a little bit with the bounties, where you say the top bounties and where these people were last seen. It would just be nice if there was another way of linking into stations and kind of finding players another way, or even, I mean, Frontier Elite 2 had a system where when you were looking for a ship on your kind of solar system map, you could see dots that gave you ship masses. So if you were looking for a particular ship, you could at least say, well, this one here, that's a 200-ton ship. It's not that because I'm looking for a crate. And you could kind of narrow down using gameplay methods to work out what the ship was you were looking for. Now, whether that would work in Elite Dangerous, if 90% of the players are flying around in Cobras, that's not really going to help you. But I'd just like to see some gameplay in there in terms of being able to locate people and flying to their location.
Yeah, maybe something like tracker drones or things like that. The good old Batman tracker batarang that seems to be
and the shark
seems to be very popular in Arkham Arkham Knight. That could be something that they could implement quite easily, I think. But, well, easier than other options, so to speak. But, yeah. We do know that. I think that's something for them to look at.
I think the issue with it is that because they've wanted to instance people who are friends together, the instancing system prioritises people who are friends.
True.
So it's very difficult to know if you just want to stick out a beacon and say I need help. It's very different. It's very hard for Frontier to know which players need to see that beacon, and I think that's the heart of the problem. But I think there must be another solution, and I really hope Frontier are working on it, and that this issue hasn't been put aside in favour of kind of just moving on into the future now. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm afraid to say, everybody, we're going to have to call it a night earlier today. So does anybody want to give it the shout-outs to the people who have been hanging around in Lave Station with you, Chris?
Well, I want to say another huge thank you to everyone who pledged to the Chaos Reborn Fiction Kickstarter this evening. Absolutely fantastic. We're up to 2,558 now, so I need to go and do updates and put up information about stretch goals, and I really hope that as well as backing the project, the people will just share the link around, because really, as I say, I want to see that number of backers go up, and not necessarily people coming back and, if people want to pledge higher because there's something they want, that's great. My point is I don't want to completely raise the target here by people kind of jaunting and upping their own pledge. I want to see lots of people coming and listening to these audio dramas because they're going to be great. And thank you all very much.
Right then, well...
Sorry, you asked me about who's in game. Do you know what? I'm actually having this slight problem with the game this evening. I've been flying around and sort of scanning the ships that are here, but every now and again I seem to lose people's names and I have to rescan them. So bear with me. We have, of course it is. We have Commander Upper Bottom. We have Commander Freedom. We have Commander Dissington. We have a Cobra Mark III. Yep, Commander Teneborian. We have Commander E-Pilot 007, Commander Airhead, Commander Azeron, and we have police forces who are my friend, because everybody loves me in Lave.
Well, as they should. You're the entertainment manager. You've got to keep them happy. So, with that, we'll say thank you very much to Chris, to Grant, and to Ben. And that's it for another episode of Lave Radio. If you'd like to get in touch with the show, then you can email info@Lave Radio, Facebook/Lave Radio, or @Lave Radio on Twitter. You can join the Skype channel by adding Fozzo101 to your Skype contacts. Or you could join the TeamSpeak server, where commanders come to hang out and chat at laveradio.teamspeak3.com. Lave Radio is recorded live on a Tuesday evening at 8:30 and is streamed out on laveradio.com/live. So thanks to all those commanders that have joined us in Lave Station, in the Twitch stream, and in the IRC chat. And until next time,